Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now Bitcoin is breaking below critical support as this massive warning signal is still flashing on the chart. But on top of that, we're seeing multiple other signals flashing right now that we need to pay attention to. So in just a moment, I'll be talking about my exact trading strategy right now, while Ethereum is also flashing a new signal in the short term that we need to pay attention to. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in this video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before getting into some important Bitcoin news and Bitcoin charts, first giving you a quick update on the Bitcoin ETF news. And in case you missed it, on Friday, we saw a net outflow out of the Bitcoin ETFs of around $55 million leaving the Bitcoin ETFs. And so in case you're new to all of this, when we're seeing net outflows like this, a negative number, that is bearish for Bitcoin. That means selling pressure for Bitcoin. And so this is just one of the few reasons that we're seeing at the moment causing some bearish price action in the short term for Bitcoin. Once again, outflows causing selling pressure, pushing the price lower. But we have to remember that in less than a week from now, we have the Bitcoin halving, which is a once every 4-year event. And fundamentally speaking, the Bitcoin halving is extremely bullish. But as always, the Bitcoin halving doesn't usually kick in immediately as soon as the halving happens. It usually takes a few months or so to start kicking in. And so historically speaking, over the next few months and over the next 1 year or so following the halving, those have been extremely bullish months and an extremely bullish year that usually follows the Bitcoin halving. So this is not a short-term event, but looking at the bigger picture. And what's very interesting is if we're taking a look at the last Bitcoin halving, the third Bitcoin halving, which is what we saw in 2020, around May 2020, what we actually saw just before the Bitcoin halving, this is on the weekly time frame by the way, what we saw just before that previous Bitcoin halving was a massive black swan event. And in case you're new to all of this, a black swan event is basically a massive negative event that affects the markets negatively that no one really predicted beforehand. And so, of course, this black swan event that we saw in early 2020 was the global sickness that we all saw. And so with the global shutdowns that happened in 2020, that caused the stock market and the crypto market and multiple other markets to crash, especially during March 2020. And so once again, that was known as a black swan event. We couldn't really predict that happening well before it happened. But what was very interesting is it happened very quickly. We saw that quick move to the downside, and then we got bought up very quickly here in the price of Bitcoin over the following weeks and months. And then we saw that Bitcoin halving, and we can see what came next over the next few months and over the next 1 year or so following the Bitcoin halving. And of course, just recently, over the last 1 day, we have seen a bit of a black swan event with the escalation of the conflict in the Middle East. I won't be going into too much detail about all of that because that's not what this channel is about. But basically, with the rising tensions around the world at the moment, this is affecting markets negatively, not just crypto, but other markets as well. And so once again, this is potentially a bit of a black swan event happening right now where there's something outside of the markets that's happening that not many people really exactly predicted beforehand or priced into the markets beforehand. And so like I just said, this is affecting the market negatively, at least in the short term, but this is still happening just before the halving, which is very similar to what we saw in the last cycle. And so these black swan events commonly turn out to be great buying opportunities, especially over the longer term, because essentially a black swan event temporarily lowers the price of Bitcoin because usually there's a lot of emotions happening around a black swan event. And usually when emotions are high, people make irrational decisions. And in a negative market, those irrational decisions are selling Bitcoin at a much lower price. And so basically, if you could just think logically and not emotionally, you can obviously think that, of course, buying low and selling high is the aim of the game. And so when you understand that, these black swan events are actually great buying opportunities, especially over the longer term if you think we're still going to have a bullish market, as we always historically have around the Bitcoin halving. And so this is why it's always important to zoom out every now and again, looking at the bigger picture. And right now, we're still within a bullish market. It's just at the moment in the short term, we're taking a bit of a pause or setback from the larger bullish trend. And of course, this is not the first pullback that we've seen so far in this very bull market. In fact, in this bull market that we're in right now, and we've been in basically since the beginning of 2023, we've seen multiple pullbacks along the way of roughly around 20%, give or take. And so far, from the current all-time high level to the local low in the price of Bitcoin, we've currently pulled back around 17 to 18%. And so simply based on previous pullbacks that we've seen in this bull market, around that 20% level is basically the area of maximum opportunity. Now, obviously, of course, it's possible to go lower than 20%. But once again, just based on the pullbacks that we've seen so far in this bull market, when we're getting close to that 20% pullback from high to low, that's usually a decent buying opportunity. Even if we go a little bit lower, of course, simply buying around a 15 or 20% pullback from high to low during a bullish market, if you think the bull market will continue later on, is often a decent idea, not financial advice. But obviously, as of right now, looking at this daily Bitcoin chart, looking at the DXY on the daily time frame over the last few days, this has been spiking to the upside massively. And once again, one of the main reasons why the DXY has been spiking to the upside is because the US dollar is relatively stronger than a lot of the other fiat currencies around the world at the moment. And as I've also been warning about here on the channel, when the DXY is bullish, expect either bearish price action or at the very least neutral price action for Bitcoin. Because basically it's extremely difficult to see significant bullish price action for Bitcoin or crypto in general if the DXY is bullish. And in fact, the most bullish price action that we see for Bitcoin and crypto almost always happens when the DXY is bearish. And so once again, considering the fact that the DXY is experiencing a massive spike to the upside, this is at least a short-term warning signal or short-term bearish signal that we're seeing right now that once again, I've been already warning about over the last few days. But as always, I'll keep you up to date on what's happening on this important chart and many other important charts every day here in these videos. So make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. And also, if we're staying on the daily Bitcoin chart, we can see that just recently, we've actually confirmed a daily candle close below this ascending line of support, which by the way, this line of support was sitting at around 66,500 approximately. And so technically speaking, with the break below this line of support, that should technically activate a bearish price target based on this pattern right here. And that bearish price target would be sitting at around $55,000. And so once again, that price target to the downside is now technically active on the charts considering we have broken below this line of support. But with that being said, even though we do have an active price target to the downside right now, of course, we still have other levels of support between the current price and that price target that we need to pay attention to where the price could possibly bounce at. And one of those levels is sitting right at around 61 to 62,000 based on this previous low and this previous low back here. And so just keep that in mind, it's possible that that area of support right there could potentially stop the price going all the way to that price target. That's a possibility that we need to consider. But basically, if the price of Bitcoin starts confirming a break below around $60,000 below these lows right here, then it becomes very likely that we could return back down towards around 55 to 56,000. And this entire bearish scenario and this bearish price target would only become invalidated if we see a confirmed break back above this line right here, sitting at around 67,000. And if we're zooming into the 6-hour Bitcoin chart, obviously just recently we've broken below this short-term area of support, which was sitting in between around 65 to 66,000. And as I mentioned recently here on the channel, if we confirm a break to the downside below around 65,000, then expect a quick move down towards this area, sitting in between 61 to 62,000, which is exactly what we saw. And in fact, at the time of recording this video, we have actually seen a slight bounce so far from that area of support. In fact, we dipped just below that support, but we basically bounced around that area. And so for now, that's still the area of support to pay attention to. But once again, if we start breaking below these lows right here, so basically if we start breaking below around $60,000 with confirmation, then like I just said earlier, we could potentially see a move down towards that bearish price target if 60K breaks with confirmation. And so with all of that being said, what is my current trading strategy for the price of Bitcoin? And well, over the last few days, it has not changed. I'm still in a very low leverage long position, only a 3x leverage long position. And basically, I've just slowly been accumulating more Bitcoin with this long position as the price goes lower and lower. And basically, with this recent dump to the downside, it triggered a bunch of buy orders that I had to the downside right here, which lowered my entry price and also lowered my liquidation price. And then just recently, just before recording this video, with this slight bounce back to the upside, I did actually close some of that trade around break even just to reduce the size of that trade again. And so as of right now, I'm in a very small long position, very low leverage. So what that means is I can afford the price of Bitcoin going much lower if it does that. And so, for example, I have a buy order right here at 58,000, more buy orders at around 55, 53,000. And so essentially what I'm just doing here is accumulating more Bitcoin just on some slight leverage, on 3x leverage. And so obviously with quick moves like this, you do not want to use very high leverage. Like for example, 10 or 20x leverage would be ridiculous right now because that will get you liquidated very quickly. And so essentially the idea behind this long position, even though the market is pulling back right now, is simply the fact that I think the bull market eventually will continue higher at some point, whether it's next week or next month. Either way, I do think that after this correction is finished, we will eventually see the continuation of the bullish market. And so whether we bounce right now or if we bounce at 50k or 40k, if we bounce anywhere in that range and eventually continue on with the bullish market, then I make money from that trade. And so essentially with this trading strategy right now, I'm extremely flexible in the price of Bitcoin. If we go lower, that's good news. If we go higher, that is good news. And in case you're wondering, I am taking this trade right now over on Bybit. So if you want to get set up ready to go over on Bybit, use the link down below this video if you want to claim that extra bonus. And also if you take that link down below this video, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim an exclusive 200 USDT airdrop position. And so if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link down below this video if you want to claim this free airdrop. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I will also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex down below this video as an alternative crypto exchange. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin funding rates right now, not just for Bitcoin, but for a lot of altcoins as well across a lot of different exchanges, we can see that right now funding rates are starting to turn negative. And this is the first time in a long time that this has happened. And in case you're new to all of this, negative funding rate is bullish because it basically means a lot of people are trying to short the market right now and not a lot of people are trying to long the market right now. And so due to that, with negative funding rates, what it actually means is the short positions have to pay that as a fee to the long positions. And so basically, for example, right now with me holding a small long position, I am actually earning passive income in the form of fees from the short positions. Basically, the short positions are having to pay me money in fees just by holding my long position. And so what that means is short positions actually become more and more expensive to hold and maintain the more negative these funding rates go. And so eventually, if the funding rates keep going more and more negative, this is going to push people away from short positions and push people into long positions. And basically, when you open a long position or close a short position, that adds buying pressure to the market, which is bullish. And so this is definitely something to keep an eye on right now. Once again, negative funding rates, which is the first time in a long time that we have seen this happen. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the weekly time frame, and obviously over the last 1 to 2 days or so, we started to see that break below the golden pocket, below 3.4k. And as I've said over and over again here on the channel, if we break to the downside below that golden pocket, expect a move down towards 2.9k. And what we've seen right now is exactly that. The moment we really started to break below around 3.4k, we've basically seen a quick move exactly to 2.9k as expected. And so at least for now, that's the next major support to pay attention to at 2.9k. But if we break below 2.9k, then the next major level to watch out for is sitting at around 2.4k to 2.5k. And also that golden pocket in between 3.4 to 3.5k should now act as new resistance. But what we are seeing right now on a smaller time frame here on the 12-hour ETH to US dollar chart is right now the 12-hour Ethereum RSI is entering into oversold territories for the first time since around the middle of March. And the time before that was around the second half of January this year, and both of those previous times where the 12-hour Ethereum RSI entered into oversold territories turned out to be some decent short-term buying opportunities. Of course, the one that we saw back in January was an amazing buying opportunity, and if you're on the channel back then, you'll know that I entered a major Ethereum long position right around here and held that long position all the way up here. And then this second buying signal right here, of course, turned out to be a short-term buying opportunity, but we still obviously head lower later on. And so just keep that in mind. When the RSI is oversold, it doesn't necessarily mean we're definitely at the bottom and we're only going to go much higher from there. Because basically what it means is just by itself, it means that we're due to see either a slight bounce or at least a cool down from the bearish price action, basically a break from the bearish price action, because we're kind of reaching the lower limits, at least in the short term, based on the 12-hour RSI. And if we're taking a look at short-term support and resistance, right now we're running into this area of support in between around 2850 to 2950. And this is based on previous support and resistance in the price. So once again, that's the area of support, at least in the short term, to pay attention to right now. And as for short-term resistance, in case we see a bounce back to the upside, we should find some resistance at around 3,000 to 3.1k, around this low right here. And we should also find more resistance in between around 3.2k to 3250, which was previous support and should now act as new resistance. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Solana, also on the 8-hour time frame, we can see that obviously alongside the rest of the crypto market over the last one day, we saw another dump to the downside in the price of Solana. And so temporarily we were finding some support around this area, but the moment we broke to the downside below around 143, we saw a quick move to the next area of support, which is sitting in between around 120 to 127. And once again, this is also based on previous support in the price. So as of right now, that's the support to pay attention to, at least in the short term. And as for short-term resistance, we should now find new resistance in between 143 to 149. And above that, the next resistance is in between around 167 to 172. But basically, the price of Solana and really a lot of other altcoins out there kind of follow what Bitcoin is doing. So for example, if Bitcoin has a massive dump in the short term, usually a lot of altcoins are also going to have something similar play out. And vice versa, if Bitcoin experiences a massive pump to the upside, usually a lot of altcoins as well experience something similar. And once again, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, check out those links down below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to profit from all of this price action, no matter if we're bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.